I think the vision and the clarity is like really important. Like for a long time, like even when I started my YouTube channel last year, I think one of the biggest things that I struggled with was like, what can I do?
Yeah.
What can I do? And what can I do that's different than what we're doing at LE? Because a lot of the things that I like to talk about or feel like I have expertise in, like we're doing that.
Right.
And so that was like really difficult because I'm like, I don't want to compete with myself like that, and so I think that stopped me for a long time. And then when I started thinking about it more with the agency, and it was more about like the service and working with these people more closely, then that kind of changed, then it was that was a differentiator. And so I started to feel like more momentum. But I think a big thing too, I've started to realize that like I have to consume a certain amount of content to like make my brain fire. Like it's like fuel. And just because it like gives you ideas, not because it's like you hear somebody say something and like that becomes your idea, but it's because they say something and that knocks something loose in your brain and takes you in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
And so I started doing that a little bit, just like watching YouTube videos while I was on that exercise bike or in the car or drinking my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
And one of the things I had seen, I think that really kind of helped to unlock this for me was, it was a guy telling a story about this billionaire giving him advice. And he was like, if you want to build $1 billion company, you need to work 18 hours a week. And he was like, you need to get to where you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 6 hours each of those days. And you don't know what you're going to be doing the next week. Like you show up, it's planned out, like you do it. And that way, if somebody, says, hey, I have this conference I want you to come to, or you have something with your family, like you can drop it, Friday to Monday, and then you just show up on Tuesday and you do the work.
Yeah.
And, and part of that, what he said was like, the way you get there is you have to, maybe I'm getting two pieces together, but I think I heard one person that was talking about like, the way they grew their company was like, if you have to ask me a question, that means we don't have a system in place. So his whole goal was to get to a point where his team never had to ask him questions. And so it was like the combination of that and the that shortened week thing. Not that like I'm trying to do that, but it was just the idea of like, you have to figure out exactly what you're doing, and you've got to figure out like the things that give you energy. And when you're in that shortened of a week, you have to be able to like, the work is in front of you and you just do it. And there's no delay and there's no procrastination because you're not ever doing the things that you struggle to do.
Yeah.
And so that started, like those things stuck with me. And I just started thinking about it. And then you start noticing those things. You start noticing that like the copy, or you start noticing the task that sits on your list for weeks. Right. Mm-hmm. And I think we've just gotten to a point now, like I just turned 35, which means this is my 10th year, or about to be my 10th year. I don't know exactly the start date, but I remember being 25.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here, I'm looking at it, I'm like, I've been doing this a long time. I've done the grind. And so there are certain times where things come up and you go, I have to do that, but I don't want to anymore. And I already have other things in my life that like, I want to have the mental energy to go, I don't want to work out, but I need to.
Yeah.
I don't want to eat right, but I need to. Mm-hmm. And so I want to put that willpower, so to speak, into those things, not into like trying to force myself to grind through work that I really shouldn't be doing, or I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And so anyway, all that together is kind of what pushed me to that idea. And I see those things like, that's been a big thing in my mind. Like, okay, if I'm not going to do that thing, or if I can't push it fast enough, then like, who's going to do it? How's it going to happen? Like, how do I get there?
Sure.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I don't know. That's kind of what that's kind of been a driver. And I think if I hadn't have been, kind of consuming content recently more than not that it's a ton, but like more than I used to, where it was like, I was like no consumption.
Yeah.
I think maybe I wouldn't have gotten there, because I wouldn't have had these ideas that made me think.